I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Here we go.
Please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Get you a phone Flournoy. For this.
Okay. Here.
Ham. Here.
Council, are there any changes to the agenda tonight? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the November 14th, 2022 council meeting. Approval of November 25th, 2022 payroll in the amount of $127,432.48. Approval of September finance report. Approval of October finance report. Approval of tax increment financing certifications. Acceptance of the Beautification Commission minutes. Acceptance of the Library Board minutes. Approval of general obligation debt in the amount of $79,889.50. Approval of state revolving fund debt in the amount of $3,823.75. Approval of liquor license for El Paso Tex-Mex Bar and Grill. Approval of special claim, which was a Visa payment in the amount of $10,544.39. Approval of total claims in the amount of $342,035.12. We had one claim more than $75,000 to Hickey Contracting Corporation for $140,908.23, which was for the Morgan Street paving.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any questions?
El Paso, is that the new one? Is that north side of the square?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yes, it is. Just a note also on the tax increment financing certifications, those are, quite honestly, they're dollar amounts that, some of them are correct, some of them are educated guesses from my part at this point. I couldn't get the exact dollar amounts from the county because of their system being down and just trying to get some things figured out. So if those educated guesses prove to be correct, we won't have to change them, but I still want to get them approved because they're technically supposed to be approved by December 1st. So otherwise, we can still change them on the next meeting in December after talking to the county auditor's office.
Okay. I had a question also to the city administrator. I'm looking at the September finance report and the October finance report. Just for my understanding, you note in the report there's a difference of $37,641.60 in the September report between two different sets of numbers, and there's a difference of $400,717.09. Do you know what I'm referring to? Yes.
So if you add up the asterisks on the top portion, there's 4 lines that have asterisks. Those are not in our software programs, but they're just accounted for on the document there on the Excel sheet. So that's what that number equals up to. It did jump because we got a drawdown from USDA for, I believe it was the Step 2 project. So they put it into our RD account, which is, again, not in our software program. That's why it jumped up.
Thank you.
I have a question. So why do we have a bank account for Live on the Square and another one for the volunteer?
I didn't make them up. I don't know.
Oh, so you're agreeing that they're there?
Yeah, they're there. I know they're there, but
Okay. There's like balances in them, and money's being spent out of them.
yes.
So Live on the Square was started years ago.
Is that leftover lost money that we gave to Live on the Square and then never spent?
It's the money that they get every year. They request it, and we put it into that bank account.
When they get a lost application? Mm-hmm. So that must be lost money.
Correct.
So they're just rolling it forward year after year after year?
Usually they spend most of it.
Okay.
Yeah, Live on the Square spends their money every year.
But
It has to be
is
spent
it,
by, we didn't give any this year, so how do they, or did we?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yep. I think 2,500. I think
it's
I'd have
they
to
probably
look
get
back.
some private donations, I would assume.
I was curious why.
They do have to, because I don't think the 2,500 covers everything, so he does get donations and stuff for
Yeah, I'm sure he
stuff
does.
like that too.
I just was curious why we had separate accounts for those.
The Volunteer Center
entities.
also got a private donation last year from one of the
So you think
banks.
that's the reason, 'cause it's private
From Iowa
money?
State Bank.
So all the lost money is still in our account, and they have a separate account for just private money?
No, when they request their funds, we transfer those funds to their account.
The lost money?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? No, please call the roll.
To me to ask a question.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham. Yes. Flournoy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Okay, we have no public forum or appearances tonight. We'll move on to resolution, action items, and ordinances. Our first is going to be regarding the status of funded activities for Jefferson County Kids Daycare Construction Project. I think, Chris, let's have you talk about it before I open the public hearing.
Okay.
And just to kind of inform the public to
Okay.
what this is about, and then we'll officially open the public hearing, and then
Okay.
we can finish up
Can
with
you
any
hear me
questions.
okay? Yeah. My name's Chris Bowers. Thanks for the invite tonight. This is a public hearing for the Jefferson County Kids Daycare Project that the city had applied for on behalf of Jefferson County Kids nonprofit here in Fairfield to help build a new daycare, 14,000 square foot daycare. Some of the details on the project to go back, in February 2020, the Regional Planning Commission applied for block grant funds on behalf of the city from the non-entitlement community development block grant community facilities fund for the purpose of constructing the new daycare facility here in Fairfield. The city qualified based on HUD national objectives for low to moderate income benefit. The city has a low to moderate income benefit of 52.4% according to the American Community Survey data. The minimum is 51% to be eligible to apply. The city applied for and received $600,000 in the block grant funds on behalf of the subrecipient, which was Jefferson County Kids Incorporated. Project costs that have been incurred to date as of September 30th, 2022, total $2.6 million. This includes $553,000 in community development block grant funds and $2,086,756 in other funding through the Jefferson County Kids Incorporated. Construction as of 9/30 is approximately 79% build, and the project is on schedule. The opening date has not been established. It's contingent upon factors including supply chain availability and licensing approval. There's a strong effort to open the daycare early in 2023. Recently, a center director has been hired, and the board of directors is finalizing operation details to get the center ready to open. It's expected that the daycare will serve between 150 and 185 people.
So I'll open the public hearing now. Does anybody from the public want to ask a question or comment? Okay, if not, I will close the public hearing. Council, do you have any questions for Chris?
Yeah, I have one question.
Okay.
So the grant contract ends February 28th.
The grant
23.
contract ends February 28th.
So what does that mean?
Well, all construction must be complete. Final invoice should be dated by February 28th.
For the entire project or just the grant-funded portion?
Well, the grant-funded portion really is the entire project.
This
I mean,
makes
final
sense.
construction, the final construction invoice should be complete.
So you're on pace to meet that deadline?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's been a great project. Any other questions? If not, then I would take a motion to approve the consideration to accept status of funded activities for the Jefferson County Kids Inc. Daycare Construction Project.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy.
Second.
Second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ham. Yes. Flournoy.
Yes.
Boy, that goes quickly without the two other people. Okay, so the next, again, I'm going to let Chris talk a little bit. This is on the matter of the status of funded activities for the Fairfield Food Garden Initiative / Pandemic Response Project.
Okay, yeah. This is an update on the status of the project with the Sustainable Living Coalition. It's the Food and Gardening Initiative. which was a project in response to the pandemic. Funds that were carried through the state through the CARES Act and funneled through Iowa Department of Economic Development Authority through the Community Development Block Grant Program. It's federal funds. The city was awarded funds from the non-entitlement CDBG COVID-19 Pandemic Response Fund for the purpose of food bank and food program assistance, which is called the Food and Gardening Initiative here in Fairfield. The city qualified for this based on the same criteria. It's the national objective for low to moderate income benefit, which is 52.5% according to the U.S. Census data. The city had applied for $99,720 and was awarded $85,000. To date, $38,795 has been spent. The scope of work is to hire a program coordinator, purchase at least 6,000 garden plants and supplies, 10 garden toolkits to implement a garden tool lending library, and to provide educational workshops, and help between 100 to 200 households create new home gardens and up to 3 community gardens here in Fairfield. All households that receive plants are asked to complete an income survey and meet HUD's 80% median household income guidelines. Since award, IEDA staff came and visited the Sustainable Living Coalition at the Eco Barn in July this summer and received a firsthand look at the operation and to get an understanding of the project. Other activities included procurement of plants, tools, a program coordinator. Those are all complete. 15 workshops have been conducted and recorded and are available on YouTube under a search of basic gardening tips. There are modules 1 through 15. 3,545 plant starts were distributed to 115 households and 1 community garden. The second year of activity begins in 2023 with an expected 3,000 plants that are planned for purchase and distribution with an emphasis to low and very low income households. Toolkits will be available for lending, and the pre-recorded workshops will be promoted and made available. The toolkits are available for lending to the public at the Sustainable Living Coalition Eco Barn at 1948 North Highway 1 in Fairfield. And also with me tonight, Bob Ferguson and Faith Reeves, the program coordinator for the project.
Great, thank you. So thanks, Chris. With that, I'll open the public hearing. Bob or Faith, do you want to speak? Say anything?
Happy to answer any questions. It's a really fulfilling program to organize and coordinate. I've got the opportunity to, be in the gardens with so many of the individuals through the growing season and help them in the process of either expanding their garden or starting a brand new garden or figuring out where they could potentially place a garden. There's been a lot of garden check-in visits going back to gardeners during the growing season just to check in on their plants, to check in on their progress, to make sure they have the supplies that they need, and kind of just keep scope on what it is that we need to look forward to bringing into the program for the next growing season. Where are our gaps? We do intend to bring additional households into the program this upcoming spring. We will continue to service the residents, households that we are already in service to, and want to continue the program after May of 2023, but we will be complete with the grant portion of that program by the end of May 2023. We've actually recorded 18 workshops thus far. Those are available on YouTube or on the gardenfairfield.com website, and you can see many of the details about the program there.
So has the program so far exceeded your expectation of what you thought it would be like?
I don't think I had an expectation, really. It's something that we're making up as we're going along. It's, I think, going very well. I want to see it, become more ingrained, and so there's more work to do. But it's an interesting process to to take someone who's not gardened before and try to turn them into a gardener. And then also it's an interesting process to, work with gardeners who have already, have built their skills, and you're just trying to fill in the gaps where they need resources and support if they are finding themselves short on those.
Great.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Bob?
Thank you very much. I will just take a moment to brag on Faith. This program would not be where it is without her skill set. And to have a program that's a modest program like this that basically is required to meet the exacting requirements of a HUD grant, Faith has been absolutely crucial, not only in her knowledge about gardening, but in her astonishing ability to make her way through figures and provide Chris exactly what he needs. So if anyone hasn't gone to gardenfairfield.com, I'd highly recommend you doing it. And just, you don't have to scroll very far before you see the 18 modules. And this program has done a lot of good. I have had people personally tell me, I don't know how I would have fed my kids this summer had I not had the garden program. It goes way beyond food. It goes into the fabric of creating community. And so it's just something that has been very, very precious. And perhaps maybe the best legacy of this, although we certainly plan to continue it, are those 18 and soon to be a few more garden modules. I'll tell you, if you know nothing about gardening whatsoever, and you start with module 1, and you go to module 2, module 3, module 4, you will have extremely refined and very actionable knowledge about gardening. I thought I knew something about gardening until I listened to the modules. So I just want to thank Faith and Chris for being such an incredible partner, and for all of you for believing in us and for your support. So thank you.
What is
Thanks,
this?
Bob.
What is this website you're talking about?
Gardenfairfield.com takes you to a tab on the Sustainable Living Coalition website, and it's all about the Garden Coalition. It's all about the program, and there you'll find the 18 modules that, and Werner, part of the grant has been, we've been using grant money and also additional money that has come in to fund Werner Meltzer, who has professionally videoed. So they're just beautiful. I've had people who are quite sophisticated say those are some of the best garden videos they have ever seen. What's nice is that you can go to YouTube and know about this, know about that, but to really have a complete program of how to develop a home garden and really have it productive at a level far beyond what most people will ever really have an understanding of. It's a very precious thing, and we owe Faith a great deal.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Any other comments? If not, I'll close the public hearing and take the action item. And council, will you please approve the consideration to accept status of funded activities for the Fairfield Food Garden Initiative / Pandemic Response Project?
I would move to approve.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Rasmussen, second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Ham?
No.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Okay, that was approved 4-1. Next, we have a public hearing on the matter of the sale of city assets, accessory buildings at the old DOT site. So, Melanie, do you want to talk about this before I open the public hearing?
So this is for bidding or bids on the 3 accessory buildings at the former DOT site, the blue carport. Then there is a metal building that's not insulated, and then there's an insulated job trailer. And the purpose for doing this is we've actually had multiple people express interest in the various buildings after we bought the site, I'd get calls saying, hey, what are you going to do with this shed? And I just kept making a list of those people. So bids are due December 8th at 11 a.m. The buildings are to be bid individually, and the award goes to the highest bidder for each of those individual buildings. We are requiring the high bidder to put down an additional 20% as a bond. This can be done through an actual bond, or it can be done as a check that we would hold on to. And the basic purposes of that is to make sure that they don't tear up the site or leave big holes that might be a liability from now until when we actually demo the building. And then that 20% will be returned once we know that once everything is removed and the site is cleaned up. So other than the 20%, pretty straightforward, and we've had a couple people already ask some questions about it. Tomorrow, the buildings will be unlocked. The outbuildings will be unlocked, that if anyone is interested in seeing the insides of those. The keys for those buildings are the same keys as the DOT buildings. So when they're sold, they're going to be sold unlocked with no keys, and the buyer will have to change out the locks.
Okay, great. So I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wants to speak regarding this? Go ahead, come on up to the podium, and you can give us your name and what ward you're in. Appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Keith Vladimir, and I guess I wasn't planning on speaking. I didn't know going to speak about the old DOT building. But what I've learned from when I visited is how much stuff has been donated of the existing stuff, materials and doors. So I just want to commend Melanie for having all that usable, I don't want to say equipment, but building material and furnishings in there donated to various things like Habitat for Humanity and for, God, I can't think of the name, but north end of town to the grade schools that they wanted stuff. So I commend her for, instead of having stuff just torn down and thrown in the trash, I think she did a very good job in disposing of that stuff properly. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Keith.
Great.
Appreciate that.
I told you.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
People come and complain.
Yeah, so I think that was, I agree, good use of the resources that we had.
And we are still working on getting those items removed. There has been 2 pickup loads and 2 restore vans or trucks full of stuff that has gone to the restore. There's probably another 3 trips left for the restore. And there were some desks that went to MIU, and then there may be some shelving going to the school district. So we're still working on that, and there's more to come. We're kind of working with the restore as they have room. Once they sell out all of the desks, then they'll come get another load of desks, and so there's still a lot more to come.
Great.
Melanie,
Yes, sir.
the successful bidders, how much time do they have to remove the outbuildings?
35 days, I believe.
Okay.
But let me double check. From the date, 35 days from the notice to proceed. So after we get the bid, we'll get the bids on a Thursday, and then we'll bring it to the council for approval the next Monday. So the notice to proceed, assuming that the check is good, the notice to proceed would go forward that Tuesday.
Third week of January or thereabouts.
Yeah, so hopefully we have some frozen ground that people can get the buildings out without a lot of damage.
So is there anyone else from the public? Not, I'll close the public hearing. And council, this next action item is consideration of sale of city assets and accessory buildings at the old DOT site. This is basically allowing us, your action, to say, yes, we're ready to sell these.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Next action item, consideration of DOT agreement for urban state traffic engineering program. This is the U-Step projects. Melanie?
So these next two items are the additional funding agreements that I mentioned a while back. We applied for, and the regional DOT office granted them for the Highway 1 project. This first one, the U-Step, is related to safety and operational improvements on primary roadways, which is Highway 1. The grant amount is for $400,000. $400,000 of a $5.2 million project. So we will meet the 45% match. And the money must be spent within 2 years, which we do not see that as an issue. And Jason, if you would pull that up. So this is attached to both of the agreements. This is what we're looking at for estimated total project costs as well as total funding sources. The U-Step funds and then the pedestrian curb ramps, which we'll discuss next, has brought down that final city portion of TIF funds, has brought that down to under $1 million, which will be good. And then hopefully bids come in well also, and we see that number continue to decrease. So I would recommend approval of the U-Step agreement.
Move to approve.
Moved by Toohill.
Second.
Second by Gandy. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Toohill.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Next action item, consideration of DOT agreement for construction of curb ramps.
So this is another funding program that pays for the concrete as well as the detectable warning panels for ADA improvements along primary highways. So this money is being used for the Highway 1 project, but if we wanted to do a project in the future, say to do all the curb ramps from Fillmore up to the square, these funds would be what we would apply for. So what we are receiving is up to $79,900, which is the estimated cost of those particular items. So there's eligible items, there's specific eligible items in this agreement. Again, I believe that the money has to be used within 2 years. And this is also a reimbursement grant where we pay the bills and then we request reimbursement of the funds from the DOT. So again, I would recommend approval.
Okay.
Is this part of the bike paths and stuff qualify for that or not?
So actually the bike path doesn't.
Doesn't,
This
okay.
is like the intersection of Fillmore and Highway 1. It's where the sidewalks connect.
Okay.
And then like at Casey's, Buchanan, so it's actually the sidewalk parts, not the trails. The trail. I mean, a little bit of the trail, but it's mainly this.
They're not going to be concurrent. They're going to be separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're separate bid items, I guess. The trail is on the east side. There is nothing on the
Right.
west side. But only the curb ramps like on Buchanan are considered part of this agreement, not the whole trail or the whole, there's curb ramps like at each driveway of the trail. Those aren't part of this. It's only at the side streets.
Okay.
Okay.
Move to accept.
Okay. Moved by Toohill.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Next action item, consideration of sludge removal, hauling, and disposal services, year 2 as final.
So this was a contract that was bid a little over a year ago. It was a 2-year contract for sludge removal in the fall of 21 and the fall of 22. The contractor JDL Ag of Stockport was awarded the contract. Last year they removed approximately 900,000 gallons, which they were paid for last year. And then this year they removed approximately 960,000 gallons for a total price of $49,357.03. Since this is a 2-year agreement with no warranty period, accepting this project as final and payment of the retainage will complete this contract. Therefore, I am recommending accepting the project as final.
Okay, council?
So moved.
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Now, please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ham. Yes. Flournoy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. Next action item, consideration of the personnel policy paid leave amendment. Judy, do you want to talk about this?
Yes. The administrator and the clerk asked if we could have a conversation about this at the Personnel Committee. Aaron, do you want to read that? Or maybe you don't have it in front of you.
I don't have it in front of me.
Sorry, I've got it here. Should have told you ahead of time, shouldn't have I?
I have it in front of me now.
Yes.
The changes are in red, right?
Yes.
Okay. After a discussion with some other city administrators discussing some leave, we thought we should look at a leave policy for maternity leave. So we added are recommending a policy, and it basically is worded, employees are eligible for paternal leave following 1 year of employment in a full-time position. Eligibility for taking paternal leave for birth or adoption of a child shall be given on the date of the birth of an employee's child or children, or on the day on which custody is taken by the employee for adoption placement. If travel is required, leave may begin upon the first day of travel. In the case of adoption, the employee must be the legal guardian of and reside in the same household with the newly adopted child to be eligible. If the employee adopts multiple children, the event shall be considered a single qualifying event and will not serve to increase the length of leave for the employee so long as the children are adopted within 6 weeks of each other. Parental leave benefits are limited to a total of 4 weeks, consecutive weeks following the employee's first 2 weeks of leave for a qualified absence in any rolling 12-month period. Employees who desire to use such leave for the birth or adoption of a child are required to apply in writing at least 30 days in advance or within 5 working days of the onset of leave. In cases where the need for the leave is foreseeable, such application shall be made in writing to city administration. So it's actually an added benefit that we're looking at giving our employees specifically for paternal leave or maternal leave. And what did you have to say?
Parental.
Parental, thank you. And it's above and beyond vacation and sick leave. So this won't be, basically when the adoption or birth of a child, it kind of puts a hindrance on leave, particularly vacation and sick leave. So adding that extra 4 weeks gives them a benefit to where they won't burn all of their sick and vacation time.
One of the concerns is that way we would not be losing an employee that we've invested a lot of training and things into, but also just the daycare requirements of a newborn. And so to have the child then placed in daycare or something like that, you have a waiting period. So this helps relieve some of that stress as well. So.
Yeah, a lot of daycares won't take a child before 6 weeks.
Right. And so we want the parent to keep on working for the sake of their whole family, and we want to see that relationship with the city in support of them. And so we just wanted to bring that before all of you and hear your viewpoints on this policy in the way it's worded, because this is a new and different thing. And so we wanted to be hearing from you tonight after you've had an opportunity to look at it.
That's right, about 6 weeks. I know the Cambridge Little Achievers Center, which is going to be opening soon.
Right.
Their age range begins at 6 weeks, I believe, and goes to age 12.
And the same with home care. If you are having someone other than a family member look after your child as well.
I think a lot of private businesses have updated their parental leave, such as this. So I think this is updating to be more in line with private business as well.
Do we need to?
I mean, I think it's good business for the government.
For the community and
Yeah.
for the families is what
makes
we
sense.
thought too. Yeah.
So who wants to move to accept this?
Move to accept.
Okay, moved by Gandy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Now please call the roll.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So we have two resolutions now. We'll take the first one, consideration of a resolution ordering construction of Step 3 improvements, 2022 bid package number 1, including the lift station and fixing a date for hearing thereon and taking of bids therefore. So we want to set the public hearing for January 9th, 2023, and taking of bids on January 17th of 2023 by 10 a.m. Is there a motion to approve that?
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to accept the public hearing for being January 9th and taking of the bids on January 17th by 10 a.m. Any other discussion? Now please call the roll.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Okay, second resolution, very similar, ordering construction of Step 3 improvements, bid package number 2, force main and fixing a date for hearing thereon and taking of bids therefore. Again, same dates, January 9th, 2023, and bids due by January 17th by 10 a.m. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Toohill.
Second.
Second by Ham. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Toohill.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Great, thank you. I have nothing for the mayor's report. City attorney report?
I went to the municipal attorney's annual meeting the Friday before Thanksgiving. I'm not going to get into the entire seminar, but what I did find was that the legislature, some of their committees have been working on the things they passed through early summer. And we're going to run into some things in our ordinances we're going to be preempted on, and we're also going to have to work harder at. For instance, pre-annexation agreements that we have with people that signed up for water and sewer out on the sewer project along Libertyville Road, or things since that time. We're probably going to have to review those in terms of what the new legislation says we can and can't do. We also, our home occupation ordinance is now preempted by state standards having to do with what we can say or can't say is impactful in residential districts. It's about a man's home being his castle and freedom to live the life you always dreamed, as long as it's not disrupting your neighbor. They're taking apart some of the things that we have in our home occupation restrictions. Mobile home park rules are also being made more lenient, I guess is the way I would put it. We have licensing procedures that we're probably going to have to take another look at as far as what is coming and will be added to in the next legislative session. So that's just a few of the things, and I'll try to outline some of that stuff that I picked up on that I didn't realize they'd gone as far as they had. There were a whole section just on fireworks and so forth that legislature seemed to think that we're too restrictive down here at the hometown level, and I think probably some lobbyists influenced them. So anyway, I'll have more on that as we get to those seasons, but anyway, that's all I'll say for now.
Okay, great. Well, that should prove to be interesting, sounds like. Okay, committee and board reports. Personnel, Judy, do you have anything else?
No.
Assume that was it?
Yeah.
Property committee.
Thank you, Mayor. The property committee met this evening with members, myself as chair and Martha Rasmussen as a member. Also present at the property committee meeting was the city administrator, Aaron Quaker, the city engineer, public works director, Melanie Carlson, our city code enforcement officer, Weston McKee, and our city attorney, John Morrissey. We had 4 items for discussion this evening. 1 was property maintenance code, 2 was the rental code amendments, 3 was Carnegie maintenance improvements, and 4th was a housing task force update. As far as the first item, property maintenance code, the public works director, Melanie Carlson, presented to the committee information about a proposed update of our maintenance code, our property maintenance code, and with a suggestion to the property committee that they, that being the administrator, the county attorney, code enforcement officer, and Ms. Carlson, work to summarize their suggestions and summarize them in form of a proposed ordinance that will update, as I say, the property maintenance code. Ms. Carlson maybe would speak to it just for a moment to give the council a little bit better idea of what we're talking about here.
So the property maintenance code, thrilling reading if you need something to help you fall asleep at night. I have copies if you're interested. This is, the city has been using this for nearly 30 years as the basis of the rental inspections. And, sorry, I'm looking for my paper here. The preface states the purpose of it very, very basically here that I like the way it says it. This code is intended to establish provisions that adequately protect public health, safety, and welfare that neither unnecessarily increase construction costs nor give preferential treatment to particular types or classes of materials, products, or methods of construction. So as we're looking at applying this, it's different from a building code in the sense that a building code you submit plans ahead of time and it's inspected during construction. Property maintenance code is after the fact. It's after it's been built, and it's mainly or completely related to safety issues. Are there smoke detectors, carbon monoxide? Has the electrical been inspected by a licensed electrician? Has the HVAC equipment been inspected by a licensed mechanical contractor? So it's a basic standard of living that we think would really be useful for this community. The city doesn't really have a mechanism for addressing several concerns that we have on private property when they are owner occupied. And unfortunately, then some of these properties get to a point that they can't be restored because they're so bad. By the time the city can do something with what we currently have, it's in such bad shape that the only option is really to tear it down. So the thought process is applying something like this and allowing for additional inspections as there are issues. Again, it's not going to be something that you're registering for, that it's ahead of time. There's, not a fee with it. It's more when we get a complaint. We've gotten complaints from the ambulance service saying, hey, we went into this person's house and they were living in these conditions. And we say, sorry, it's owner occupied. You're going to have to call DHS because we can't do anything. And that's really unfortunate. So as Paul mentioned, we're going to review the property maintenance code, kind of highlight the key items for the review. Also confirm with John Morrissey on how enforcement really work. It's going to be more than likely enforced under the nuisance part of the code, but we'll make sure that's outlined, as well as, what was my other note? Oh, as well as the appeal process. Make sure we have that all lined up, and we'll review that with the property committee before bringing it further to the council.
Right. So I think that what I got out of the presentation and the discussion is really about safety. Safety for the owner-occupant, safety for the city, safety for everyone in the city. If you have your owner-occupied residences up to a certain standard, or if there's some mechanism for the city to enforce a certain standard, they'll be safer, as will those people who visit, as will the community around them. So we're not asking the council tonight to approve anything, except that they do further work and present it to the property committee in the form of a summary of what the suggested changes to our ordinance might be. That's our motion.
Just to do the further study that needs to be done.
Further study, they'll bring it to us in a summary, we'll discuss it further. Then, at that point, we may have a recommendation to the council as to whether or not to move forward with the change in the ordinance.
Okay, so Paul's made a motion to move this forward for further study. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Second by Ham. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. That passed.
The second item for discussion this evening had to do with rental code amendments, and similarly, the individuals I mentioned earlier suggesting that we look at possibly, and they make a strong case for amending our rental code. Again, they're suggesting, and we agreed that, and our motion is that actually, there is no motion. We're not going to make any motion. I just want to let you know that what they're going to be doing is doing further work. The city administrator, code enforcement officer, the city engineer, public works director, and the city attorney in preparing possible suggestions for rental code amendments. We don't really need any further action from the council other than to let you know that that's what they're going to be doing. So again, they're looking at the rental code for possible amendments to that. I want to make sure the council is aware of it.
Paul?
Yep.
I don't know if this is legal or not, but could the committee consider capping the percentage of units in the city that are rentals?
That's a good question. I don't know the
We're
answer
at
to
somewhere
that.
around 40%, and a lot of those properties probably don't come up to the standards we would like to see. I just thought something you could consider.
They're here. The people are going to be working on those proposed amendments, so they heard you. So I heard you. That's an interesting thing to consider. Yeah.
Sounds unconstitutional to me.
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
Oh, no, I don't think so, because we had a property come before us a year and a half ago, and the owners wanted to sell the property, but the condition was the buyer wanted it rezoned from R1 to R3, and we approved it. We didn't have to do that.
We have approved housing areas or developments that are not allowed to have
I'm talking about
rentals.
individual homes that are single family being split into 3 family units to turn them into rentals, so the buyer of the property can do just that.
So your question is, can you limit the number
Well, we don't
of
have to
rentals?
approve that kind of a rezoning.
So the question is, can you limit the amount of rentals in a city?
Well, we could do it that way, right?
I mean, that's your question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when Park Place was built, that was under the original terms of that one. The rentals were not allowed within
They had
the boundaries of
covenants,
that.
Tom, and they allowed 10 rental lots out of 65.
Okay.
So there was a rental area, and at the time, the concern was that you can't really tell a private owner exactly how they're supposed to use their property within your zoning restrictions, as long as they're reasonable. So we found that type of covenanting to be reasonable back then. I don't know what the latest proposal would be.
Okay.
You know, so it could be, maybe it won't be.
So that's an interesting question. And I think the work group that's working on this issue of rental code amendments will have a lively discussion about it. I'm not sure where it'll go, though. The next item on our list this evening was Carnegie maintenance and improvements. And we, if I understand correctly what our motion is, and Martha made it and I seconded it, so I hope I do understand it. We are proposing that the Carnegie Museum, by the way, does need some maintenance work done on it. There's no question about that. And we're proposing that the work may involve a city employee, the proposed maintenance work. So we are proposing that the motion is that we move ahead with possibly designing a bidding process to allow that work to take place to do some maintenance work in the Carnegie Museum. Is that fair?
That's
fair
correct.
description?
Carnegie needs some maintenance permission.
Yeah. Details of what the maintenance is will come forward later. But we need your permission for our city government our city staff to work on preparing a bidding process.
Correct.
That's our motion. It's been seconded.
Okay.
With some extra bid procedures because of that potential conflict.
That's right.
So that's in the motion.
Right.
So you made the motion, Martha. Were you seconding that?
Yes.
Is that what the intention was there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great. That passed unanimously.
Fourth item, Mayor, was Housing Task Force update. I know it's listed as a separate item on the agenda, but I'll speak to it at this moment. As of today, according to Josh Larrabee, who's the Executive Director of Grow Fairfield, we have 387 submitted surveys. That's a pretty good number for a town of 10,000. That's almost 4%, but we could use more. The more informed citizens, the more engaged citizens we have who can submit, who participate in the survey, the more data we have, the better our decisions can be for all the community. So we still encourage people to go to growfairfield.com, growfair.com if you haven't done so. And if you have, encourage your friends. The more, as I said, data we have, the better decisions can be. We have until next December 7th to get all the surveys in, so please, if you haven't done so, do so.
And we have a goal of 2,000.
2,000 is
We have to do
that's
some
pretty
work.
strong. That's like 20% of the population. That'd be kind of amazing. But hey,
Show
you
them
know,
what we can do.
Yeah, that's what we can do. So yeah, we like to have as many as we possibly can. So go on and get on the website and do your survey. And if you haven't, do it. If you have, make sure your friends do. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Library Board. Fairfield Public Library adoption of fine-free policy. Alex, thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me. My name is Alex Schmidt-McCunis, and I'm the director at the Fairfield Public Library. It is with great pride and enthusiasm that I announce today that the Fairfield Public Library Board of Trustees has unanimously approved the adoption of a fine-free policy for all late materials effective January 1st, 2023. Our community has joined a growing number of libraries across the nation with similar policies, including over 238 public libraries in our state. Congratulations. Additionally, all borrowers currently with outstanding fines for late materials will be forgiven. Borrowers will, of course, still be expected to return materials by their due date in the same general condition they were in when checked out. A new loan schedule detailing by which date overdue materials will be marked lost will be made readily available to the community. After an item has become overdue, a reasonable length of time has passed, and an item is marked lost, borrowers will be expected to pay the cost of the replacement item or return the item in order to check out additional materials. A replacement cost of $10 will block an account until it's returned to good standing. With the adoption of this policy, it's projected that the library will take in $8,500 less each year. However, it is our belief that the positive value in adopting fine-free policy greatly outweighs this decrease in revenue. Additionally, the library staff believe that the believe that we will be able to make up for this decrease through additional financial contributions from individual community members. It was previously thought that fines for late materials served as an incentive for borrowers to return materials in a timely manner. However, research begun over 5 decades ago has shown this is not true. Moreover, fines for late materials are a barrier to access for our community members that cannot afford to pay these fines. Many parents and caregivers will never set foot in the library due to the fear of accumulating late fees. Our new policy will draw more community members to utilize the library's resources without the fear of fines for late materials. The cost of staff time spent discussing and collecting fines from community members represents a significant cost to the library. A report of one library cited in a peer-reviewed Colorado study described a situation in which a library spent nearly $60,000 in staff time annually attempting to collect late fees and received just over $70,000 from late fees and revenue. With the removal of late fees, our staff will have additional time to serve the community in ways that create much better value. Finally, the adoption of a fine-free policy at our library will help serve to draw a greater number of young families from all socioeconomic backgrounds to our city, thus ensuring the continued vitality of Fairfield into the future. Children who borrow our books and feel at home in the library will develop an appreciation for the library space and one day bring their own children there. Thank you for allowing me to share this statement tonight, and again, congratulations to all on the adoption of a fine-free policy at Fairfield Public Library.
So my understanding is that the council needs to approve this as well. So, thank you for that explanation. I think it was really good. It gave your whole case. I appreciate that. So is there a motion to approve this policy?
So moved.
Moved by Gandy,
I'll second.
second by Toohill. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Okay.
The library board has a virtual total authority over the library in every area, including hiring the director and setting salaries. Why do we have to approve this particular fee?
We actually have a little bit more authority than what we've been guided in the past. In regards to employees, personnel policies and stuff like that, they're still city employees, so those things are still under the guise of the city council. It also, when it comes to a financial issue like this, where there will be a little bit of a decrease in funds, that still affects city taxpayer dollars, because those are taxpayer dollars being used at the library, so we need to approve that also. I am in concurrence with Alex on this one. I think we should approve this policy. But yeah, there is a little bit more involvement by the city council than what has been proposed in the past, I would say.
But these fees would go into the library account of some kind. They don't go into the general fund, do they? They do go to the general fund?
They do.
Well, it does, but it's still part of the budget that the library budgets for their funds. So it's still, for all intents and purposes, it stays with the library. It would have stayed with the library anyway.
I just have the question, how are you going to be tracking this to know if it's truly successful or not? I'm not trying to be, because it's a new thing, but how would we know if people then taking advantage of it is my question.
Well, definitely we'll be looking at the data for library materials circulation, and
for how long it takes for you to get those materials back?
We'll be looking at that as well. But
okay.
From what I've seen in numerous studies conducted across the country over the last 5 to 10 years, they say that items may remain out slightly longer, but they, in the long term, items come back more than they have come back in the current system.
Okay.
Because
Because people know that if they bring the materials back, they'll be forgiven. And it's really the shame of having late fees that keeps many people from returning to the library.
People return books late for various reasons, not because they're irresponsible necessarily.
Yeah, and I really have to say I really appreciate the policy you passed regarding paternity or maternity leave and parental leave. There was one example of a woman in our community who, about 10 years ago, she was just, I think 16 at the time. She had a significant amount on her account, and she was not able to check out materials. I decided, wow, it's been over 10 years since we've seen her. Let's welcome her back. So I waived those fees from when she was 16 years old, and it was fantastic. I saw her visit us on a weekly basis with her children, and then about a week ago, I saw, oh no, she has fines again, and they look pretty significant. Well, then I thought about it and I realized, wow, she was getting ready to have her baby. I'm sure that she is out right now because that's what's happened. And she completely forgot about her library books while she was having her baby. With a policy like this in place, we'll be able to forgive her and she'll be able to come back and there won't be any difficulty there.
This probably doesn't happen very often, but let's say you only have a single copy of a book that someone wants to check out, but it's been checked out by somebody else and it's sitting there. Do you ever call them and ask them to bring it in, or even send someone to get the book to bring it back to the library?
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely do make those kinds of phone calls, and we're currently updating our computer software, and as we update our policy here as well, we're planning on sending out a message before materials are due back, and then we'll be sending a message on a weekly basis until materials are returned. And then actually, after 120 days, that's when legally the material will be considered lost. And at that point, we would either send the account to collections or have a specially drafted letter sent to.
Well, I know I appreciate those reminder emails when I get them. But are you moving away from emails since people are tweeting? And other
definitely. We're moving toward sending text messages in place of emails.
Right. I like what you're bringing up, though, too, about just the hours to be pursuing something like that. If it's a $10 book and you're putting
$10 in.
A lot more than that in your time and your energy to get that one book back. I can see where this would really change just your workload drastically. So thanks for pointing that out too.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Not, I'd like to call the question. That is, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that has been approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Administrator and department reports.
While Melanie's coming up to give the project report, I'd like to let the council know that I've been in contact with Alliant Energy. Recently, we had a solar project that is actually Alliant Energy's project, but I think it's in Lee County, where Lee County is giving the ground to Alliant, or actually Alliant is paying a lease on the property for the solar project. So we're venturing down that road a little bit to see if we can use some of our city-owned property to where we could put a solar project here in Fairfield for a very similar way with a lease of our ground for that solar energy to be put into the system.
Which site are you considering?
Airport site. There's a site by out by Walton, which is part of the gun range, and then there's also Chautauqua Park, kind of to the, not Chautauqua Park, but there's a parcel close to Chautauqua that's big enough also.
Is the one that's being done off of D Street which is almost like Steve Yuskevich property. Is that Steve's project?
Yeah, that's a private project.
That's a private project.
Yes, that's a private project.
Because it's a big one.
As far as projects go, the Step 2 wastewater treatment plant and all of the associated projects with the wastewater treatment plant, we're working on getting those wrapped up as the USDA deadline or closeout date is the end of the year. So we're trying to get all of those expenses in and using all of the grant money for the wastewater treatment plant. But we are getting very close on finishing that up. Morgan Street, we kind of got a break in the weather. I was afraid that we were going to end up with half of a street paved for the entire winter. But with some nicer weather last week and this week, they paved the returns today, and there's a few more things that they'll be paving later this week. So it does look like we'll have a Morgan Street for Christmas. There'll obviously be cleanup that needs to happen in the spring on that one. Also wrapping up is the Highway 1 water main project. This is the work from Harrison Avenue to Adams Avenue. The contractor poured the last bit of sidewalk last week. So he will be moving his equipment out of the parking lot by the senior center soon. And then again, a lot of cleanup or more cleanup will be happening next spring. At the last council meeting, you guys talked or agreed with the Waterworks shelter location. So I'm continuing working on the bid documents for those. Still with the goal to bid the project, bid both Chautauqua and Waterworks shelter at the same time, and bid that in early 2023. And let's see, we talked about the fire station. One of the things that has kind of been on hold for the last year has been the sidewalk mapping with SAM. Our GIS company was going to do a grade of each of the blocks of sidewalk that will allow me to complete the ADA transition plan, which is required by the state. They will be here later this week and next week doing that work throughout the entire community. With a lot of projects wrapping up, I knew that I was doing more things than what was shown on my list, so I wanted to have a couple updates on the planning office and general public works items, because there seems to be a lot going on that side of things. In the planning office, we are working, we're about ready to roll out an online tracking system for all of the code compliance issues. John's office likes it. It's has everything, a nice, neat little package with the pictures and letters that have been sent out to the property owner. We need to get his office access, but as during the trial period, it's been working really good as a way to document and organize significantly more number of compliance issues than what we've dealt with in the past. So it's been a good change. With all of these changes, the fire department has been doing rental inspections. And with those rental inspections, I've been working on updating a checklist for them and have a few YouTube videos to provide them with some training. And what we would like to do is have a landlord meeting January 30th. We don't have a date set on this, but we want to talk to the landlords. These are not necessarily changes. It's just Scott did the rental inspections for many years. And when you get another set of eyes in there, they're going to see something different. And so we want to remind all the landlords of what exactly is on the checklist, because, you know, driver A might see something different than driver B. It doesn't mean that one item is more important than the other. So we don't want to hear, well, Scott didn't make us do that, or that wasn't found the last time I was here, because really it's all still part of the code. It's just maybe what gets caught or what gets seen that time. So we want to go through that with the landlords, as well as working on improving the process, or working on lifting up and rewarding the landlords that are keeping up their properties. They're doing a good job. Finding ways to promote tenants' rights, and maybe some sort of identification sticker that the property has been inspected. So we want to discuss some of those with our landlords. Now that we've had about 6 months of the fire department doing this, we can kind of talk about some changes that we think need to happen, and we'd love to get the landlords' input on that. Also in the planning office, at the beginning of the year, we're looking at renewal of several different permits. One of the things that we're going to push really hard this year is the contractor registration, with updates in the Iowa code. That it has always been required that a licensed electrician work outside of your own home. But now it is also required for a licensed mechanical person to work on the HVAC equipment and to have a licensed plumber. So we are doing it's still a voluntary registration, but anyone with those licenses, as well as contractors that have insurance to work within the right-of-way of the city, they can turn in a registration, and then they are put on a list that identifies who they are, the type of work they do. And then when someone calls in and says, I've got a drain problem, or, maybe they got a call about a high consumption, and we say, hey, you need to call a plumber, they'll ask, who do we call? We say, please look at the list on our website. So again, it's still free, but we want to really start to bring forward the people that are following the laws and help promote those. Finally, I hate to end on a bad note, but the sanitary sewer department has had several adventures over the last couple weeks. It started with the Highway 34 lift station. They had the pumps on that go down simultaneously, and they had to work 24-hour shifts in order to keep that operational. The Highway 34 lift station serves the Suburban Heights area, so it's a relatively low area that they were able to, I'll say, maintain without significant damage. They ended up having a discharge of approximately 300 gallons, which is very little given the situation that they were in. They do now have a new pump with a backup pump, and then a third motor rebuilt and storage. So 34 lift station is up and running after a very long week. I think there was a trip to Kansas in order to pick up a pump there. However, then starting over the weekend, we had problems with they had problems with Grease Lightning lift station. So Grease Lightning lift station is the lift station that we are replacing with step 3. It serves approximately 50% of the community. They had one. We've been operating on one below ground pump for a while. This is because we knew the project was coming up, and we had fingers crossed that we could maintain with the one we had. That pump stopped working over the weekend, so they started using the emergency above ground pump over the weekend. That stopped working this morning. They had just a little bit of time this morning where they had no pumps operational. I just texted Sean. They only had a 500-gallon discharge, which is great considering that we're at 50% of the community. However, this is an evolving situation. We really don't want to spend $200,000 on a brand new pump that's going to be obsolete in 2 years. We're trying everything we can to get a rebuilt pump or to get these rebuilt. Sean's crews are looking for used ones, looking to modify the existing pump. They're really exploring every option for the lowest cost option. I want to give them credit for trying as hard as they are with the taxpayers' dollars to make sure that we don't have a pump that's obsolete in a couple years. But it's been a very stressful time for them, and like I said, they had a discharge. There may be more discharges in the future as Grease lightning kind of continues. We'll keep our fingers crossed, say a prayer, whatever we need to do in order to keep that operational for a few more months as we go into, as we get ready for step 3. So that is the situation there. Anything major, we will obviously let the council know, if there's a major overflow or people need to avoid the creek or anything like that, we'll let you know. But right now, they'll just be working on it day-to-day basis, trying to get the parts and keeping it running.
What's our threshold, Melanie, for telling DNR we had
anything?
500 gallon is enough?
Yeah, the 300 from last week and then the 500 for this are reportable. So they will be, the 300 has already been reported, the 500 will be reported tomorrow.
Is this a whole different system than what's on the Highway 34 one? I mean, they can't interchange the backups or the spares.
Right. I had the same thought, but it's about, Grease Lightning is about 10 times the capacity as the one of Highway 34 lift station. So they can't be interchanged.
Where did the name Grease Lightning come from?
You would have to ask someone who's been here a long time, but my understanding was that was the road where the high schoolers hung out a long time ago, and it was a dirt road that they liked to go mudding on, and so it was Grease Lightning because you could go really fast down the mud hill and tear it all up. That's the urban legend?
Yeah.
Okay.
My boys mudded out there. Yeah.
Okay.
My SUV, they're mud.
Okay. and then after the bypass you went through, it's a dead-end road now, but it's still Grease Lightning.
Is that between Libertyville Road and the 4-lane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's waste management down that road.
It was.
What everybody's been wanting to know.
Thank you.
My question.
Thank you for asking. So, unless there are any questions about any of the projects or any of the things going on, that's all I have for you.
All right, great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Toohill,
Second.
second by Ham. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.